Welcome to Room and Board. My name's Chris George, and let's get into it. Unfortunately, we are about an hour too late to cover healthy habits for kids. I'm gonna guess that it didn't fund based upon what the funding goal was at. And honestly, I'm sorry, Healthy Habits kids, but if you wanted to find a market for people looking to develop healthy habits, you shouldn't be on Kickstarter. Also, before we begin, I want to give a huge shout out to my newest patrons, Justin and Jeff. Thank you so much for jumping on board. Your support touches me more than Slippery Jim ever has. But seriously, I am always continuously grateful for people who want to jump on board and support the channel and support the creation of these videos because YouTube doesn't pay very well. Especially not an hour to content produced ratio. So it is directly through your support that I can, slightly justify spending all the hours that I do on these videos. And I am consistently honored that you choose to hang out and watch the show and feel like it's worthwhile. So thank you so much for jumping on board. Even just supporting for a small amount or just a few months helps a lot. I don't do a see you later patrons, because that would be stupid and petty, but I am very appreciative of anybody who has supported the channel or will support the channel in the future for whatever amount of time. You're all fantastic, and yeah, means a lot. I mean, ideally you do end up sticking around forever, but or at least until the year 2077, which is quite a long ways away. Now, to our first game, we have, oh no, Cyberpunk 2077. It arrived sooner than I thought. Or is it actually Marvel Zombies? No, sorry, it is Cyberpunk 2077. I just got confused by the comment section. I mean, come on, drama aside, which you may have heard of. This is, it's a bad campaign from a marketing perspective. Or just a Kickstarter video perspective. I mean, I enjoy Cyberpunk as much as the next Deus Ex fan, but this video has in no way gotten me excited to actually play the board game. It's gotten me excited to go out and maybe get a copy of the video game. Even though there do seem to be all these very practical minis that you can use in any situation. Dispatch your underlings. You have the solos that honestly to me don't look anything like Harrison Ford. Or you can build your army with the techies. What a menacing name. I mean, really, the only time you do want an army of techies is when you prematurely bring your game to PS5 and cannot support it whatsoever. Or you can hack the net with your aptly named Netrunners. I was really hoping that they were going to continue with this trend, because I went into the, the campaign of the video not knowing anything about it. So when the next one came up, Uncover Buried Secrets, I was like, with the grave diggers? There are grave diggers in there now? Or Seize Opportunity with the epileptics, the epileptic dogs. If you want to seize the pup-tunities. Okay, please don't leave. I'll get to the gameplay, I swear. So as far as gameplay goes, this is another area control game from, come on, overview over, onto the prices. No, you're trying to get the most renown in the city. First to 25 points basically wins. And it doesn't matter what you do as long as you are known for doing it. That's the mandate of all the gangs of Night City. So as previously mentioned, you have your 3 unit types. Your warriors, monsters, and ships. No. Sorry, your Bushi, your Daimyo, and your Shinto. No. Your Guardians, your Gods, and your Warriors. No, what is it? Oh, right, it's your Solos, your Techies, and your Netrunners. That's it. We're back on track now. And you can also get these additional specialists that you can recruit who, by their name, have special abilities. A little unique power that you can use depending on, how you use them on the map. The combat system will be generally determined by the use of your 4 combat cards, which start out generic, and then you can upgrade them as the game goes on. And what's a little bit different about a standard area control game that I think is a bit interesting is that each sort of province on the map has specific spots that you can assign people to, and those will give you additional resources. So it's not the provinces itself that generate the resources, it's the actual spots that you have to navigate, which gives it a double layer of collection sort of stuff. That's a technical term. Double layer of collection sort of stuff. It's a very standard industry term. I can't believe you haven't heard of it. They're actually referred to as points of interest in the rulebook. and in the game. Anyway, how the game mostly will work is you'll have these 6 unique action discs, which can give you a various action whenever you play one, and you can play 1 or 2 on your turn, or you can collect all the action discs that you have previously laid out, and then that'll allow you to recruit more units and such. So you'll activate all your solos using an action chip, and then you won't be able to activate them again until you collect all your action discs and then play it again. I mean, they could be cards, but they're discs, because that's more cyberpunk. It's action disc management. In addition, the other thing that I think looks interesting gameplay-wise is that every game you'll have these overarching stories, is what they're referred to, and basically they're just objectives that people can complete, and when people have completed them, they'll branch off into different potential changes of the rules or effects on the board. So every game is going to be tweaked slightly depending on the story cards that come up, which I think is also cool. I mean, gameplay-wise, everything seems solid. It is another area control game from a company who has produced some very good area control games, or ones that I mostly like. But it is going to cost you potentially more than it's worth. And I could spend an entire video just scrolling through the comments. And I almost did, because there's a lot of really funny ones, or there were, especially at the very beginning of the campaign, of people just trolling and being, I think, justifiably upset from the previous campaign of Marvel Zombies, where they said, hey, this is definitely going to be the shipping, this is our estimate. And then 3 months later, when, like, you probably knew, they're like, ah, just kidding, it's double. We got your $9 million now. And yet it has still raised over $500,000, which Command may be disappointed with. I wouldn't be disappointed if $500,000 ended up in my pocket. And it's honestly incredible that they have raised this much, considering the cost, or the cost that they are now showcasing. It's $110 US for the base pledge, but the shipping, at a minimum, is going to be $50 US, if you live in the US. So it's actually a $160 US game. For me, after shipping and conversion, it would be like a $232 game for just the base pledge. I mean, you can say it with me. That's just too much shipping. Yes, I did have that commission just for this segment. And yes, I am getting it printed on a t-shirt and sent my way, in the greatest twist of irony, where the shipping cost me more or equal to the t-shirt itself. But it's just not worth that amount, right? When I can probably get it for $110 Canadian at my store when it finally hits retail. So you have to ask yourself, are the extras worth double the cost? And for me, that's, well, it's clearly a no. Even if you do get Orange Hibiscus, Lizzie Wizzy, and Big Joe. Which, in fairness, I mean, that sounds like a great party Maggie and I would love to attend and leave our keys in a bowl. I think I can do without them in this particular game. And honestly, having a 5th player expansion called the 6th Street Gang, I just hate. On principle. But I really think it's too much for what you get. I generally like Command games, and I also generally believe that Command games have been the last great Kickstarter deals in the past. And unfortunately, it does not seem to be that way currently. The all-in cost is just too much. I would prefer if they took the Trudvang route, which is take too long with the game to produce it, so they have to give you 2-wave shipping for free. Is that why the shipping on this one is so high? Conspiracy! I'm not interested in it, just it's too much for what it is, which is a standard area control game that you can get at your store. It doesn't do anything that revolutionizes area control games other than using an IP that people might like. And here's another tip. There's so many people who are part of the $1 club now because they want to potentially back the game, but they're afraid of the shipping costs. You know what the shipping costs are going to be. You do. So all you're doing is backing for $1 and giving Command free marketing material into your inboxes that maybe will convince you to back the game, or 2, will just be annoying once you've made that decision after the campaign is closed, and now you're constantly getting these updates over and over again. I love in the comments, they're like, what does the $1 pledge get me? It's like, well, hey, it gets you access to the pledge manager. You know what else gets you access to the pledge manager? A $0 pledge, because there will always be late pledges. Sure, you won't get the notification that the pledge manager is live, but if you need the notification that the pledge manager is live to remember that you want this game, then you probably shouldn't be getting it in the first place. All you're doing is signing up for notification after notification, update after update, for every stretch goal they unlock to fuel that potential FOMO and desire. And why would you put yourself through it? Although, to be fair, this campaign stretch goals were unlocked at the same rate as Marvel Zombies, well, currently you would have unlocked Luke Cage's biceps, and that's about it. And sure, fine, sometimes you want to be updated about the campaign and be involved, and that will help you make your decision, then the $1 club is a great way to go. But if you are just joining, to actively spam the comments, or because you're unsure about the shipping later on down the line, you'll be able to see it. And you'll be able to see it without falling prey to all the marketing that will convince some of you to change your minds and back a game that, maybe you'll enjoy. I just don't think you'll enjoy it to that extent of the price point, but I'm also very frugal. Anyway, if you are interested in backing Cyberpunk, which I think if you do get it, you know what you are getting, you likely will enjoy it. I just don't think, for me, it would ever reach that level of enjoyment. Feel free to check it out. That finishes Wednesday, July 6th at 9 p.m. Anyway, moving along, now that you've all left the video, because Cyberpunk was the only thing that you were here or interested in, well, joke's on you, because you're going to miss out on the best game of your life coming up somewhere in this episode. I can't tell you where. I mean, I assume. I don't know what you're into. But next up, just quickly, we've got Sugar, Spice, and Everything Dice. And this campaign has raised almost $1 million Canadian, and it's just for dice. And I don't usually cover dice campaigns. I sometimes do. I see them and I say, hey, this looks cool, but I want to highlight this because it is actually like the most gorgeous dice and vault dice boxes that I have ever seen. And also, of course, it is exceptionally expensive and makes Cyberpunk look like a great deal. But hey, if you need a campaign to delude yourself into thinking that it is a good deal, well then hey, look at this one. Wow. At least it's not as expensive as these dice, right? Which, if you like to do that sort of thing, I'll save you a tip and just compare everything with buying a house on the moon or Toronto. Pretty much the same price. Anyway, I really thought they were cool, so I wanted to share, and if you want to just check out the campaign and look at them and say, wow, those are cool, and then move on, well, that's about how much I want to enjoy this campaign. Like, they're so gorgeous, but I would also never want to roll them if I've spent $70 on a set. I think my favorite dice are the Terror, the Bloom, and the Great Wave. Those are all just like... the craftsmanship here is exquisite, and it's really cool to see. And it's also something that, your boy's not interested in. But hey, if you love dice and collector's dice and want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on dice, well, check it out. That's July 7th at 12 p.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Clash of Galliformes. And most people don't know this, but far up north of Sweden, giant birds are fighting each other for control of territories. That's the theme of this game. It's not funded, it's almost there. And I just think it's so, so funny, especially because the creators were like, oh yeah, we really like Age of Empires, so we wanted to have a game that kind of felt like that. And also, we were inspired by one of our creators who lives in an area where pheasants are fighting each other all the time. And I can just imagine what unbearable horrors this person has seen that got them to come up with this warring giant birds. The pheasants that have attacked this poor person's window over and over and over. Honestly, that alone deserves your support. And you wonder why one of the clans is called the Blood Pheasant. That is not a sight you want to open your window to. But the game is fairly simple, and a lot of it has to do with the setup of the board. For setup, everyone's going to get 2 triangle pieces of board, so it's 2 per player, and then you're going to assemble them on the map, or just basically stick them together with other people, but then you get to choose the placement of the various tokens on these 2 sections of map. And this is important because you're basically outlaying your whole game. The goal of the game is going to be to collect 2 different technology tiles and also collect 9 puzzle pieces to create your cave painting. And the first person who does this can trigger the end of the game, and then the person with the most points wins. Aside from that, it's a fairly standard grow your armies, move your armies over the map, take over new spots on the board, new hills that will generate more resources so you can then funnel them back into your armies, or buy those technologies for your giant birds. Yes, of course you want to give your birds fur and fire and rope and swords. I am terrified of this nightmare that these people have created. I am never visiting Sweden. This was not a good initiative from the Swedish Tourism Bureau. It's a great rulebook. Currently, there's 10 pages of how to set up and then 2 pages of how to play. So it feels fairly simple, but also emphasizes how important that setup part is actually going to be. It is the opposite of the song, all about that game, no setup. That's probably another Lady Gaga hit, right? Megan Trainor. Trainor, is there any bird that rhymes with trainer? Pheasant grazer? It's not a close enough rhyme. It'll be hours before I come up with a good one. Maybe I'll get one by the end of the video. I say that, it's not a guarantee. I will not. Let's keep moving on. But yeah, and it's also fairly cheap. It's $41 US, $53 Canadian. After shipping, it works out to be like $73 Canadian for me. And honestly, because of my love for this theme, it's close. It's really close. I don't care if it's going to be a good game or not. I think it will be a good game, but I also think it's very funny, and that usually matters more. I'm safe because I just paid my rent and looked at my bank account. But if I were a more impulsive person, like the Chris George who hadn't yet paid his rent, yeah, pretty close to pulling the trigger. Anyway, if you're interested in that one, that finishes July 7th at 1 p.m. I hope that it gets over the finish line. I think it will. I think there might be that last push. And if it does, well, hey, I will take all the credit. Now, next up, we have a double feature. We have Compounded, the peer review edition. So it's a new edition of an already existing game called Compounded, which came out in 2013, and a new roll and write called Lab Notes, brought to you by Greater Than Games. The only thing greater than games is, apparently, science. Now, on their main page, they have a basic breakdown of both of them, but they don't have any rules links. And in this day and age, why is there not a rule book or a how to play video on your main campaign page? Why are you hiding your how to play video in update number 4? Because when people come to your page and want to know how to play and don't see it and just see the tertiary overview, I don't know, it makes me nutty. You're better than this, Greater Than Games. It's in your name. So I'd like to maintain this righteous anger and say that it looks horrible, but it actually looks pretty fun. So Compounded, you're going to be scientists trying to, discover the most chemicals, basically. I love that the scoreboard's also a periodic table. But the basic flow of the game is you're going to draw some elements out of a bag and put it into your periscope. I almost said your microscope, your evaporating dish is what they call it. And then you'll have an opportunity to trade with every player around the table for whatever you want. You can trade for deals down the line. The trading point is specifically very open-ended. And then after the trading happens, you're going to take your little markers and put them on elements that are out in a grid, a communal grid. And when you do that, you've claimed that element, and then when you finish putting all the little parts of the element on that specific card, you get to score the points and you get an additional bonus. But where I think is interesting, and why I think this would be good with more people and probably not like at the 2-player count, is because if I help you complete your element, I also get the little bonus in the corner, which is sometimes tools that you can use, and you can also forego placing and claiming an actual card, which will give you points. Instead, you can put your little marker on a section of tools, which will refresh any tools you've managed to collect. So the possibility of trading someone 1 for 2 and then saying, I'll use one of those on you at a later time, or creating these deals where you help people complete elements and create that trading, I think the possibilities there feel pretty fun. And then in Lab Notes, you have just a nice dice drafting roll and write. You're going to roll some dice with periodic elements on them, and then you'll take one and you'll put it in basically a sheet that has a bunch of circles in it. And you'll write them and try to connect them in the specific pattern and orientation that the elements are combined. And you want to make the best use of your space while not blowing up too many of your elements. Because we all know that's what Bunsen burners do. They focus on one specific molecular element and just go, you can't use that anymore. They're both pretty good prices as well. Compound is $35 US or $46 Canadian, and Lab Notes is $15 US or $20 Canadian. And I think Compounded feels, I think you need the right group. I think it could fall flat if that negotiation aspect doesn't actually come forward in the way that I'm hoping it does. Lab Notes feels like a fun little roll and write puzzle, which if you like roll and writes, I think I would look into. But only if you're in the US, because shipping there is 10 to 16 bucks, and anywhere else, Canada is 25, and then anywhere else is like minimum 35. So it's not worth it. Not in the slightest. You'll go to sleep tonight and forget about this segment entirely. Although half of that is due to just me not being memorable. But if you are interested, hey, check it out. That's July 7th at 4 p.m. Now, next up we have Brettwalda, which is by Phalanx Games, who created Coalitions way back, I believe, in the first Crowdfunding Countdown episode ever. And it's a testament to Coalitions that I get excited anytime I see Phalanx Games is involved in something. I guess I really should have backed Coalitions because a year later, and I'm still thinking about it. But I stand by it because I don't think I would have the consistent group to make it actually worth my while to purchase. Anyway, in this game, you are working to become the next king, or as the Anglo-Saxons called him, the Big Bad Brett, hence the title of the game. Yes, that's true. The Big Bad Brettwalda. But don't worry, Brett never goes anywhere without his little quarrels. Anyway, there's 3 ways to win the game. Get a specified number of dalks, murder a player's leaders, eliminate them from the game entirely, and then have the most dalks. Or, at the end of 12 rounds, have the most dalks. What are dalks? Well, they're tokens on the board. They're also old Anglo-Saxon brooches. Brooches. Who knows anymore? So yes, that does make this theme an area control game with a bunch of big bad Brett wannabes and Carls fighting over a bunch of jewelry. And they said the Black Friday sales at Tiffany's was bad. I'm so sorry. I'm really making a push for the leaving Patreon camp of things. Anyway, you'll need to control various chunks of land so that you can get taxes and food from that land and use those taxes to buy more recruits, army people, your corals, your buildings, and then of course feed all your soldiers in the winter. I do love, again, that they highlight in the rulebook the negotiation aspect of it. They say, hey, at any time you can give food and you can give gold to get a person to do whatever you want. But unlike other games, these deals are not binding, so good luck. And I also really enjoyed this sort of thematic catch-up mechanic mixed with an advantage token. If you've heard of those board game mechanics, they were in my Friday video, that's the reference. But whoever's in first gets this pretender token because you are the current pretender. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's probably going to take the throne, that piece of garbage over there. And so because you are the great pretender, which, side note, was a great anime series until the last 2 episodes, horrible, undid everything they did. But the pretender gets to go first, can decide the turn order, can break ties in whoever's favor they want, but they don't have access to their own treasury because I guess everyone's like, yeah, they're going to be king. Why is he dipping into the treasury so much? If he was the rightful king, shouldn't he be loaded? That's what all kings are, right? He wouldn't need money in the first place because, as we all know, the truest Brett is a Brett that is assigned Brett by God. Funny theme aside, it's not even that funny. It's just, I don't know why I think calling the king Brett is funny over and over. All of my weird tangents aside, the actions are fairly simple. It's recruit, collect money, upgrade your units, build stuff, and move. And if you move into the same space as somebody else, a battle will be fought where you're going to roll dice and you're going to contribute cards before and after, which can add or subtract to your defense value or attack value. It looks solid. It looks standard, solid, and it's 87 euros or $113 Canadian, and then around an 18 euro minimum shipping unless you're in Poland, which is 5 euros. So for me, it works out to be $141 Canadian. Again, that's too much for what it is. You can get good area control games that are under the $100 price point now. It's not necessarily doing anything, again, particularly innovative in the genre. However, I would recommend this as an alternative to Cyberpunk. If you're frothing at the mouth for Cyberpunk, I'd say check this one out as well because they do a similar thing if you divest the themes from them. You're not going to have the unique units in this one, but you are going to have those action tokens in the same way of manipulating them. So check that one out if you're interested. That finishes July 4th at 4 p.m. over on GameFound. Next up, we have Journey Adventure Quest, and this one again is fairly plain and simple. It is a card drafting game. That's it. You're going to level up your stats. You're going to level up your spells. You're going to level up your equipment. And you're going to fight those monsters who keep leveling themselves up. And the goal of the game is to get the most points. You're going to do that by defeating the monsters, completing your own individual quests, which will be along the lines of basically getting a similar type of card and then using it effectively. Or these communal goals, which will be drawn at the beginning of the game. These communal achievements that, first player gets X amount of points. I think the interesting thing here is that everything stacks. Yeah, everything will chain together. If you like games where you get to always beef up your additional stats or your spells, or you used to be able to do this one thing and now you get to do these 5 things in that sort of engine building-esque way, that might be interesting to you. I don't know if the monsters scaling at the same time as you scaling would make it feel like everything is the same and there isn't that sense of progression. Probably not, but that's my, minimal concern. And my other thing that I would say is that this seems like a very light game. One that I think I would enjoy playing and have probably no complaints about, and then likely, not play again. That's just for my own personal taste, but if you want something lighter and you're looking for Kickstarters, you don't want to go to the store and get all the other sort of lighter games that are proven and exist, well, this one's $49 US, $63 Canadian, and then it's $15 shipping to the US. Sorry, it's $14.23 to the US, and then it's $24.60 shipping to Canada, and then more to anywhere else. Remember, these are just estimates, so it might be $14.24 to ship to the US. It could be that, and I don't want you to expect $14.23 exactly, but it'll be around $14.23 for shipping, which is a good price. A very specific price, but a good price. Anyway, if that's interesting, check it out. That's Friday, July 8th at 12:56 p.m. Fittingly, it doesn't finish at 1. It finishes at 12:56. Now, next up, just quickly from Steamforged Games, we have Epic Encounters. And if you're an RPG fan, this is a campaign where you can get 10 different taverns to rest your weary adventurers at. Aren't you tired of having nothing happen at the tavern? Let's make your whole campaign happen at the tavern, or at least a one-shot mission happen at the tavern. And I think this is kind of a fun concept, the fact that these different taverns could exist. You're always going to be getting quests at taverns in true sort of fantasy fashion. The price points really vary because you have £17 or $27 Canadian for the PDF bundle, which if all you're interested in is the taverns, you should get that. You can get some minis along with it, and that might be interesting for some of you because Steamforged are fairly well known for making decent minis. And the minis here look fun. So for £66 and $104 Canadian, you can get like a set of 4 minis. And then you have to pay £107 or $168 Canadian for the 38 minis total. And you also, anyone who has Bardsung out there and has really enjoyed Bardsung might take interest in this because you get cards to incorporate all these minis into your Bardsung existing game. It's just more monsters. Judging by the size of Bardsung, you probably don't need that whatsoever, but maybe you love it and you want to have more encounters. But this is a deceptive tier because it's just the Bardsung stuff, and you're not actually getting any of the interesting taverns that I think are interesting. But I think it's good that they do have this tier in case people are here just for the minis and added content to the other game. That's cool. If you want everything, it's £131, $200 Canadian for everything together. When you justify it as 20 bucks a tavern, it feels less severe, but just go for the PDF. I'm only telling you the prices so that I can be a good resource for you, but just go for the PDF. If you love the minis, well, I guess you love the minis, but you have enough. You do. But it's a cool campaign, something I wasn't expecting from Steamforged. Looking very favorable on Steamforged recently because they have acquired the rights to produce Euthea, or whatever it's called. Euphoria, the board game, I think. And it's cool seeing a large company saying, yeah, we'll take that on board and we'll produce it. I mean, they know that there was about $500,000 left on the table, so it's not the worst investment decision in the world. But still, it's cool to me that I know that the people who wanted that game will be able to get their hands on that game pretty soon. Anyway, if you are interested in these taverns, that finishes July 8th at 1 p.m. Next up, we have Helsinki Deluxe. And this is another Queen's game, and therefore represents another opportunity for Queen's Games to never send me anything as I just rip them apart for their stupid prices. But you better act now, because only 2,000 will be produced. Due to the rising cost of acrylic, they say they will never make a deluxe copy again. And I know that they mean Helsinki Deluxe, but I also know that they didn't specify Helsinki Deluxe. And so I might as well make it my personal troll mission to Queen Games and to keep my beady little eyes on them and their inevitable deluxe deluge that will continue on Kickstarter and happily remind them of it every single time. Like, hey, this is a deluxe edition, aka you know it's going to be too expensive for what it's actually worth. However, honestly, Helsinki looks like an awesome game. I gotta hand it to them. I think it looks fun. You're going to move this piece around the Senate board, and that's how you decide which 2 cards you're going to get to pick and put into your hand. And then you're going to use those cards to build shapes and put them on your own personal board. But there are 2 caveats. One, you can only place things on the side of your board where your piece is currently. So that also determines where you want to take things from, because you have a strict hand limit of 7 cards and you can't go over it. So you have to really be mindful of what you're taking and where you're taking them. And then 2, you have to drop them Tetris style, depending what space on the board you're at, until they hit something in the middle. So they have to hit either the central anchor or another piece, or else it doesn't count. And I think that Tetris aspect of dropping things in, depending on where you are on the side of the board, that to me seems really cool, especially combined with the hand limit, because then you have to build something that maybe you're not excited about. And also in this campaign, you can also get Copenhagen, which is also a city and is basically the same game, but less interesting. And that's why they don't tell you about it on the campaign page. They literally just say, oh yeah, we got another deluxe thing, Copenhagen. Acrylic costs are going up. Better get this too. It's the same game with less interesting choices. You take 2 cards, you don't have a worker, you just have to take 2 cards that are beside each other, and then you put your tile somewhere in your Tetris grid, but you don't have to follow the Tetris dropping. You just have to start at the bottom and then work your way up and try to get lines of windows or not. Anyway, base game is $59 US, $77 Canadian, which rightfully no one is picking up because you can probably get it in stores because it's Queen Games. And then the deluxe is $74 US, $96 Canadian, which, I mean, compared to all their other games, this feels better. This is my favorite Queen Games campaign, I will say that. And I really do think Helsinki looks great, so if you want a deluxe version of it, go for it. I would be interested in trying the retail one for sure, but not with the added shipping. Anyway, if you are interested, that does finish July 8th at 5 p.m. Next up, we have the second print run of a game called Pagan, The Fate of Roanoke. And this is a 2-player asymmetrical deduction game where one of you will play the hunter and one of you will play Angelica Houston, the witch. And this feels like if you liked Mr. Jack but wanted something better, this might be that game. It seems pretty cool. There's going to be 9 villagers that are laid out in a row in front of you, and one of them is a witch. It is the witch, and as the witch, you know the identity of that villager, and you want to make sure that they don't die, and you can complete the ritual on them and them alone. But for the hunter is trying to murder the witch. That's how the hunter wins. The hunter loses if they kill 3 innocent villagers, because the town is a very forgiving town. They're like, you kill 1 villager, they're like, okay, clearly a mistake. We know there's a witch around, collateral damage, we're fine with it. Kill 2 villagers, it's like, well, you know, the hunter's always known for being a little bit clumsy, and I bet he just tripped and his crossbow went off, and that's why, you know, Gary is no longer with us. Yes, that was. Gary took it to his neck. I'm glad you saw that. But 3 villagers, boom, you kill 3 of us, you're out. It's the official 3 strikes you're out rule, hunter. A double homicide is fine with us, okay? As long as you get the witch after that. 3? No. We'd rather the witch win. Why do you want to kill the witch in the first place? I don't know. She's probably giving us healing potions or some stuff like that. It's just weird, you know? Different. You're different? Nah. Oh, how far we've come. Anyway, the key to the game, which is kind of exciting, is that every villager has an action associated with them. So, as the witch player, maybe you're putting the little ritual tokens on that character because they're the witch, or maybe they've just got an awesome action and you need to take that action. And so I think that feels like a really cool element to the game. It's Mr. Jack. The hunter can also exchange things to look at the suspects cards and find out who isn't the witch, and so they get that additional information, right? Each player is also going to have their own separate deck of cards that they're going to be getting to draw and use and do different actions, and honestly, it seems cool. It seems like a fun design, and that clocks in at 45 euros or $61 Canadian, plus 14 to 18 shipping standard, makes it around $84 Canadian for me. I mean, it does look fun, but it doesn't look that fun. It doesn't look $84 fun. But I think if you were to get it, you'd probably enjoy it based upon what I've read and seen. So if you're interested, check it out. That's July 9th at 6 a.m. Next up, we have the Buttonshy Reprint campaign. And so if you aren't familiar, Buttonshy is a company that produces these little wallet games, and they've produced over 90 different games so far. outrageous. And usually each game has like a maximum of 18 cards. It's something along those lines, maybe 24 cards, if you're nasty. And each game is going to cost you 11 bucks US, $14 Canadian. Or if you get them in this bundle deal, well then the first one's 11 and then everything after that's going to be 10. So well, look at those savings. Or if you get them from their website, they're $12 US. So again, look at those savings. But there are a few important things to note here. I was really excited when I heard about this campaign because I've heard a lot of good things about Buttonshy. People really love their games. I've played one of them, Skulls of Sedlick, and that was a fun time. I can see the possibilities for it, and I really do love the innovation that can happen in a small package, and that you can travel with them and just pull them out and play for 10 minutes and then put them away. I really like this concept. So I was excited that this new campaign was coming and that they were going to offer their whole campaign or their whole catalog, but that's actually not the case. They're only offering 6 specific games, and those games are called Revolver Noir, Space Shipped, Wonder Tales, Ragemore, Tides, and Mint Julep. And I mean, it makes sense. They're a small company. I'm sure there's a joke there. And they can't print all 90 of the games off. But it is worth noting that they have Sprawlopolis and Tussie Mussy, which are fairly well received. Sprawlopolis better than Tussie Mussy. Sprawlopolis is probably their most well-known game, and so they have those on the campaign page, but they're also only add-ons. But the important thing to note about those two is that they cannot be included if you get a bundle deal. It's just a logistics thing, so if you're hoping for that, then you have to buy one and then get Sprawlopolis and Tussie Mussy alongside with it. And judging by how much people like these games, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Or you can just go to their website and get all the good ones that people say and recommend, and only get the ones that people recommend for this one too. If you're in the US or the UK, shipping's actually really great. It's $5, and like I think that's it. If you're in Canada, it's like $24 if you're getting more than 4, 14 if you're getting 1 to 3. I can only reference what I have heard. I know a lot of people over on the Discord were talking about Buttonshy games, and you know, in order to find out what they said, you're gonna have to join Patreon. That's just how it is. Yes, I am holding their information hostage, and no, you couldn't just look in the comments below here with everybody mentioning what their favorite Buttonshy game is. It's not a possibility. What they referenced as good ones were Sprawlopolis, Skulls of Sedlick, Food Chain Island, Liberation, Antimony, Space Shipped, Ugly Griffin Inn, and Ragemore. So Space Shipped and Ragemore, those are the two that are included in the reprint. So if you're unsure about which ones to get, some people who I know really enjoy games, enjoy those. Anyway, if you're interested in the campaign that finishes July 9th, 10:30 a.m. Next up, we have a game called Plutocracy, whose Kickstarter video plays like Fritz Lang's Metropolis, which is the creepiest, headache-inducing movie that I've ever seen. Congratulations, Plutocracy. That's what those space tones in the background get you. But the goal of the game is that you are trying to buy seats in the planetary parliament, the Plutocracy, located fittingly on Pluto. And so the person with the most seats on Pluto at the end of the game wins. And the premise of this game, you know, the overarching conceit of the world is that Earth has been doomed. All the resources are gone, and we have to fly out to all of our other systems and establish new colonies and get resources. And at its core, this is a pick up and deliver game where you are going to pick up resources on a planet for cheaper and fly them to a planet that wants them and sell them for more. And then you're going to use that money to buy seats in that planet's government and then get elected to Pluto, so that eventually you can control Pluto and rule the entire galaxy. And I do love this concept, but I also love that there are so many games which revolve around leaving Earth and revolve around us being like, yeah, we see there's a problem here on Earth. The environment's going to crap. The resources are drying up, and we're just not gonna do anything. It's like such a widely recognized reality that will happen, and our goal is like, nah, don't save it, just throw it out. Get a new planet. We got 8 more in the solar system. Why are we staying on this one? I was talking to someone the other day who mentioned their optometrist said the reason why you're going to have more cataracts or more eye problems sooner in the future is because of the ozone layer. Because the ozone layer is thinner, you're squinting more at the sun, and that is just one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard. Happy Monday morning! Let's throw some more neoprene in here and just hope everything gets better. There's no neoprene in this one. It's just, like I said, your standard pick up and deliver game. The two things that are highlighted on the campaign page are the action system. Basically, everything takes time. It'll take you time to go to Pluto, it takes you time to go to Saturn, and it's always the turn of the player who has spent the least amount of time to represent everybody moving along in the galaxy at the same time. So your aim is to find the shortest routes and the highest profit margin to get your way into that plutocracy. And what will benefit that is that the planets will change position every 10 time units. So obviously you want to time that out to sit your little spaceship on a planet and let it rotate you closer to another planet before launching off. And I like this aspect of the planets that rotate in this rotating board. I've seen it in a few games, all of them space and galaxy related. And I think that's the benefit of having a space-themed game, is anticipating this rotational bias that will send you towards your destiny. And I also like that you have to be on a physical planet to purchase seats in that planet's electoral chamber or whatever, and that it's the most votes in that specific electoral chamber that can send their own person to the plutocracy. So it's like the Supreme Court and the Senate, basically. This one's 40 euros or $55 Canadian, and you can pick it up if you're going to Essen Spiel, which seems like a very ambitious turnaround time. If you're not going there, it's another 18 euro for shipping. So again, conversion works out to like $91 Canadian, and that's, again, too much for me. I'd want to pay like 50, honestly. But if this speaks to you, if you think this looks awesome, check it out. That finishes July 10th at 5:59 p.m. And our last game of the week is a game called Beyond Humanity Astrominers. And this is a dice placement game where you try to mine the asteroid the best, basically. You have these 7 custom dice that you're going to roll, and each symbol has a different side, and those symbols represent the actions that you can do on your turn, or they represent the workers, basically, because different actions require different workers. And you get 1 reroll, not 2. This isn't King of Tokyo, this is Beyond Humanity. That didn't make sense. Anyway, you need to optimize your dice and get missions and achievements. Those will be the bulk of your points, and you do that by getting as many resources as you can that you can spend on these missions and achievements. That's pretty much the general overview. There are a lot of specific places you can go that require specific dice and do specific things, but it's all in the pursuit of getting these additional resources and completing these specific missions. This is the deluxe edition. It's $89 US, $115 Canadian, plus another $30 shipping for me. It's like $11 shipping for anywhere in the EU, but to me it would be around $150 after conversion, and at that price I would rather just play the Artemis Project, because it's a similar theme with similar dice placement, and you can get it for cheaper in retail. There will be a retail version of this one. The FAQ says that they're moving towards that, but it'll be the pathetic version with no minis. What are you gonna stick your little cards on? Cardboard? Like an animal? No, get the good version. Now, do it. I mean, this is more of a reasonable version than their other project, which was Beyond Humanity Colonization, or Beyond Humanity Colony or something, which was like $250 US and had like light up little status symbols on the board. Wild, that you connected your pods together. You basically built an entire space station. I think that was the goal of that one. I mean, it does look fun. I can see nothing wrong with it on a mechanics level, on a rulebook level, but again, there's nothing that really wows me enough to make it over that $100 bar, which is my bar for games, really. It's gotta be something really special to get over 100. But if it's that for you, check it out. That finishes next Tuesday, July 12th at 12:01 p.m. And that is it. That is the week. That is the episode. Thank you for sticking with me. It has been a long week for me personally, and I am a little tired, but I can't stop now with the crowdfunding countdown. This is episode 49. It is our 50th episode next week, which is wild. And I think this may have reduced my energy level. I calculated the amount of time that I've spent on these. It's about, I don't know, it's about 12 hours of video to produce one of these things, because I do read through every rule book and investigate the backstory of each company and make sure that I am approaching these things from a not a tertiary view, from an actually informed view. And even still, I miss things. Anyway, I calculated with that bar, at 50 episodes, I will have spent 25 24-hour days on this series since starting it last year. Last year it was started July 12th. And this brings us to July 12th, so we have made an official year. I'll probably say more at the beginning of next week's episode as well, and so I'll try not to repeat myself, but oh, that's a lot of hours. That's literally months. Almost 2 months of a year. 1/6 of my life has been devoted to this segment. So, hey, I hope you like it. No, seriously, thank you for sticking with me. Thanks for being here. Enough of that, let's get to the actual thing that goes here, which is the pick of the week, which is why everyone's still sticking around. I fooled you with the timestamp. We got the pick for me and the pick for you. Every week I do a pick for me, which is the thing that I am the most interested in mechanically or whatever, and then the pick for you, which is the thing that I think will have the most, broad appeal. If I'm recommending something this week that I think is a good deal, that'll often fall in that category as well. And so my pick for me this week, you know what, there's a few. There's a lot of contenders. The contenders are Brettwalda, Pagan, and Galliformes. But I gotta go with the quest for Galliformes. Clash of Galliformes, that's what it is. It just seems so funny. I actually think the tactical decision making that will be in the game feels interesting as well. I like when you have to basically plan your entire game in those initial setup moments, which is weird because that's kind of what you do with deck construction. But I prefer it in like a drafting mechanic or in a board mechanic because you see what other people are doing and it feels like more part of the game. Yeah, and maybe I just want to highlight it because I'd like to see it get over the line because I think the theme is unique. I think the price point is decent. And yeah, it looks all right. Brettwalda looked, again, fun, standard area control. And Pagan did look really cool as well. I like that concept. And the reason I'm mentioning them is because pick for you, there's nothing. I'm not recommending anything pick for you. I thought I was going to recommend Buttonshy, but I thought it was going to be their whole catalog will be open. So it's not actually that specific thing that I'm recommending because I don't know enough about those 6 titles and I don't have confidence enough in those 6 titles that they are going to be exciting. If it was Sprawlopolis or Skulls of Sedlick, then hey, maybe that would be the pick for you. Or maybe I just made it the pick for you unintentionally. But I think it's a no pick for you week, and the reason being is because the deals just aren't there. They're not. After shipping, things are getting to that really expensive level. And I think it's important to be cognizant of that. And there's nothing here that has blown me away. I think there's a lot of really potentially solid games that would get, seal of approval or whatever, but it's nothing that would really be mind-blowing and give you that visceral experience. And I think with the market the way it is right now, you want those visceral and exciting experiences. And you probably don't have the time to waste on just okay or even good, honestly. The market has developed in such a way that we have so many excellent offers that deserve to be continued to play, that deserve to continue to be played. Wow. That took me so long to figure out where my sentence structure was going wrong. Anyway, so yeah, no pick for you. No! Sorry, that was loud. Don't do it. I'm getting a little loopy and I have to edit. So thank you again for being here. Let me know what you are excited about coming up and what you are backing, if you are backing something this week, and why you're doing it. I'm always interested to know. If you are, I am excited for you, and I hope that you love the toys that you get. And it is worth your money, and it continues to give you excitement and joy for many years to come until we all have to leave this earth and go pick up goods from Uranus. I didn't want to say it. I wanted to say Jupiter, Saturn, or anything else, but there we are. Thanks for being here. I'm Chris George, and I do not have a catchphrase or a brain cell left in my head today. But I do have gratitude and love for everyone who's still here watching, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.